Hello, Anson Garcia with Verizon, and today we're going to be looking at Jabber 12.5. I'm in the early field trials for Jabber, or in the early field trial program in Cisco, and there's one particular feature that I want to highlight and show you because I think it's going to have fairly big implications on how we sell UCaaS and what the strategic direction of UCaaS should be. Now, I could be wrong on this, but I want you to decide. I'm going to feed you the information. I'm going to give you my opinions on this, and I want you to decide. The feature that we're going to look at, there's lots of features in 12.5 that are coming out, but the one feature that I think may be a game changer is Jabber and its ability to integrate to WebEx Teams. They call it the changing modes. So it can be in a mode that is connected to WebEx Teams for, let's call it instant messaging and persistent chat right now, and presence and things like that. And then it can be at the same time connected to, let's say, UCaaS for audio, video. Okay, think about that for a second. We're going to join the whiteboard here in a minute. I'm going to give you what I think, or excuse me, what the architecture looks like, how things are going to work at a high level. But the one thing that I want you to be thinking of, and this popped in my head, does Cisco have the development muscle to continue down the path of two clients, the WebEx Teams client and the Jabber client, that both connect up to the same back end? Okay, and the reason that popped in my head was, if you look at Microsoft, if you look at Slack and HipChat and River and all these other guys, they're in high gear. I mean, they're in overdrive. My gosh, Microsoft Teams, almost weekly, I can't even keep up with it, almost weekly coming out with features in Microsoft Teams. I mean, PBX in the cloud, now they got auto attendant, queuing. I mean, all these things are coming out. I just can't keep up. So my question is, does Cisco have the development muscle to continue down two lanes with a client that's going to connect up to two different things and be feature rich on both sides? And I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Join me on the whiteboard. We'll sketch it out just so you got to kind of get it in your head what I'm talking about, and how the architecture is going to look and how Jabber is going to connect. And then we'll go into some demos, and I'm going to jump around onto some presentations and some PDFs that have kind of been dripping out of Cisco. Hasn't been a big splash on this. It's just kind of dripping out. So you be the judge. I'll give you the information. Please comment or email me. Tell me what you think. I may be crazy. I'm not sure I'm right or not, but I'm guessing. I make a prediction that one of these two clients isn't going to be around in a few months, year or so. Again, unless Cisco has the development muscle that I don't know of. I don't think they do, but they might. But let's go to the whiteboard.
Okay, the simplest way for me to explain this is, let's have a Jabber client over here, and we're talking about 12.5, and there are two pieces to Jabber, right? I think we've talked about this before. On your client, right, there's an IM&P piece, and there's also a SIP phone piece, right? The soft phone. Those two pieces, remember, they kind of connect up to, like in UCaaS, they connect up to the IM&P server in UCaaS, and then this one's connect up to CUCM, right? What if we turned this IM&P server and just took that away, and for the IM&P piece, that piece of the puzzle there, that piece of the application, we said WebEx Teams. Okay, obviously this is inside UCaaS, right? This is going to be in the cloud, WebEx Teams out on the internet. So that's where Cisco is going with this. They have two deployment models. The two deployment models are this one that you see here. So let's just say this is deployment model number 1.
And the second deployment model is just without CCM. Okay, because remember, we're talking Jabber here. We're talking Jabber. So when they talk Jabber deployment models, they're talking from the perspective of Jabber. There is deployment model number 1, which is, again, WebEx Teams as the IM&P piece. And then, in our case, would be UCAS, CUCM. Okay, deployment model number 2. Put a 2 here. And what we're going to do is we're going to erase this guy. And that's deployment model number 2. So, again, you have no calling, you have nothing like that with this deployment model. It is a pure instant messaging and persistent chat. So I like, when we do WebEx Teams here, I'm going to do IM&P. I'm just making that up. But just so we know, it's instant messaging and persistent presence. Instant, persistent message. I'm going to call it IM&P. So those are the two deployment models. So again, the significance of this are huge, and I'll tell you why later. It may not look like a big deal yet, but I think you will see it's going to be a big deal. I'm going to come back around, and maybe we'll do some whiteboarding again, but I just want to get that concept in your head. If you think about UCAS real quick, obviously you have to say in the deployment model number 1, okay, deployment number 1, we have, I'm going to say VZ UCAS, okay, and it's connecting up to CUCM. So we get all the voice, video, things that we do with VZ UCAS. And then the IM&P, of course, over there on the WebEx team side. So there's two connectivities. One's going through the PIP network, connecting up to VZ UCAS, and you could say they get QoS, with the real-time stuff, they get QoS and all that stuff, and with the non-real-time stuff, instant messaging and presence, persistent chat, they're going WebEx Teams. Now it's one client. Now here's the rub. Here's what I want you to think about as I continue to give you some more background on this. Okay, they have two clients now that subscribe to the same service. What am I talking about there? Well, from the client's perspective, we have the WebEx Teams client. And now we have Jabber client. And they are both going to be able to connect up to the WebEx Teams collaboration cloud. Albeit Jabber won't have the full functionality yet, which you'll see in a little bit. But my question that I'm grappling with and want you to dissect as well is, does Cisco have the development muscle to develop two clients with features and things that the market is demanding, right? The market is demanding features from this team messaging stuff. If you were Cisco, do you have the development muscle to put in both of these clients? Because some people may want one, some people may want the other, but you're going to have to go against the Microsoft Teams and the Slacks of the world. That's who these guys are competing with. So that's something to think about. And the reason I thought about that is, if they don't, which I personally don't think it would be good strategically. I'm not a business strategist when it comes to this stuff, but personally, knowing Cisco and knowing their history and dealing with their TAC and dealing with things that they develop, I would argue that there's going to be one client, and that client is going to be maybe Jabber. You know, since they're adding this stuff to Jabber, unless they say, hey, we're going to add WebEx Teams to the WebEx Teams client, we're going to add this connectivity to Cisco Unified Call Manager, or UCaaS. So the voice video would come from UCaaS. I don't know, but again, what I'm thinking is there's going to be one client. So, okay, let's get into the features, how this all works out, and what Cisco's dripping out. So this has not been a big splash yet. I'm part of this early field trial stuff, and these things are just kind of dripping out slow. And I want to give you that information, and so you have it, and you can start thinking about this stuff as well. This is one of the things that given to the early field trial participants for Jabber 12.5. And you can see here Jabber 12.5 WebEx Teams messaging. All right, let's take a look at what they have here. This is a very short prezo. So they're saying, is this a hard choice? Stay on premise, HQ audio video, or go to the cloud with cloud messaging. Now, each of these have their messaging systems, right? On the left there, we certainly have messaging for on-premise, right, called CUPS, the old word for it. It's Cisco IM&P now. We have that part of UCaaS, and Jabber can use instant messaging. Okay, and then on the cloud, right, they have cloud calling. That's kind of falling apart now, and then they brought BroadSoft, and we'll see where that goes. But we have this thing called hybrid, right, that we've been talking a lot about, and we can kind of connect that into UCaaS. It's a little bit ugly as far as how voice flows and things like that. It's not very scalable, and there's some problems with it. I shouldn't say problems. There's some scalability problems if the customer is not aware on how to use it, how it works. Okay, well, is this a hard choice? Well, let's see. Next up, they say stay on premise, HQ audio, video calling, and cloud messaging, and there's a question mark. And then, or go to the cloud messaging, HQ audio, video call. Well, that could be, I guess, part of hybrid. That could be their old, what they called cloud calling before. That again is kind of going away. But look at this, interesting. Have them both, they say. Jabber with WebEx Teams messaging. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all this. In fact, I'm going to skip ahead. Let me skip ahead here because there's a lot of mumbo jumbo in here, but I want you to kind of take a look at this right here. Okay, let's bring this up full screen, and I want to go through these. So what are the features that are out of the gate right now? And when I say right now, with the alpha code that I have, that I'll show you here in a minute. And they're specifically talking about WebEx Teams here. Okay, so we have chat. We have a lot of chat stuff, new text editing layout, new chat history file. This is, scroll to the bottom. This is just a new feature list as it relates to WebEx Teams being the instant messaging and persistent chat piece of Jabber. Okay, and you can see where they're going. You can read these. You can pause the video and take a look at these over here. Spaces. Okay, you have a chat hub. I'll show you what that is in a minute. Retrieve and view spaces. You can create one-to-one chats. Okay, this is equivalent to one-to-one spaces inside WebEx Teams client. You can create a new space. You can leave, edit, moderate spaces. You can mark a space as a favorite, just like you do in a WebEx Teams client. You can look at the space policy. You can do some filtering. Presence, looky here. We can do WebEx Teams based presence today. That's that kind of, I was active yesterday or something. It's not very good in my opinion. I think I've made a video on that, you can set yourself active It's only activates. It's not like Jabber where as soon as you move your mouse, you're available. It's not rich presence. Okay, Jabber is what we call rich presence. The same presence like in Skype for Business. That's rich presence. It shows when you're in a meeting. It shows when you're on a call. All those kind of things are the rich presence, as opposed to what they have in WebEx Teams today, which is just, you were active yesterday, and you can get on your PC and be working on your PC. And if you don't interact with WebEx Teams, it still says you were active yesterday, so no one really knows if you're behind your desk or not, or if you're available. And then we have this rich presence, so that's going to come. That's going to come into WebEx, into Jabber, as it relates to when you're using Jabber for WebEx Teams. Okay, and then we have integration here. Escalate to one-to-one call. Okay, and then we have these that are interesting. Escalate to a WebEx CMR PMR meeting. Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about that one here in a little bit. Microsoft App Integration. I don't know what that means. I guess very similar to, I'll show you how we can make a meeting, and we've done that before in WebEx Teams in some demos, and I'll show you that. I think that's what they're talking about. And then they have this thing. I don't know what that is, but it's kind of a client services framework. They used to call it client services framework before. So they must have some little piece of Jabber that's going to be that have some microcode in it that's going to be able to be upgraded from the cloud. So maybe the IM&P and presence piece of Jabber is going to be some microcode inside of Jabber, and then that's going to be able to be upgraded from the cloud, similar to how the WebEx Teams is upgraded today, except the whole client is upgraded, right? So this will be just microcode. You still have 12.5 Jabber, but the little microcode that kind of connects up to the WebEx Teams and gives you all the instant messaging and persistent chat and all that stuff is going to be microcoded and going to be dynamically upgraded. That's what I think on that one. And then you can check out these others. You pause the video. Let's continue on. Let me see. I wanted to show you this. Take a snapshot of this or pause the video. But you can see, if we look at, bring this up a little bigger for you, and we'll let this build all the way. Okay. If you can see here, drop 4, which is coming out, in October, this whole feature set is going to be complete. And you see they adding some stuff, delete messaging, flag messages. I think you can do that already. So I saw that already. Here's the microcode upgrading, message notifications. Some of this stuff is already in there, so maybe there's some pieces to it that aren't in there. So you can kind of take a look at this, pause the video, and take a good look. What I want you to make sure that you see, what I want you to make sure that you don't see is you don't see anything that has to do with Teams and spaces under Teams. So look in here. Remember in WebEx Teams how we can create teams, and then we add people to the teams, and then we create spaces under those teams, and all the people that we add at the top of the hierarchy, we can add, or they can join the teams under the spaces, under that team. So if you don't know what that means, you got to go back and look at the some of my training videos where I explain what teams are, how they relate to spaces and different types of spaces and things like that. So anyway, I thought that was interesting that I didn't see anything with teams and spaces here. All right, and I'll show you the client here in a minute. You'll see what I mean as well. Okay, I'm going to nerd out a little bit here and talk to more of the technical folks real quick. If you're not technical or not interested in any technical aspects of how this is going to work, you can fast forward. But for you technical folks, you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, I know Communication Manager, I know how Cisco IM&P works, and I know that Jabber does some DNS magic, and that's how it connects up to Call Manager. And then there's a file that goes down and kind of it configures itself based on some profiles inside Call Manager. So how is it going to know? How is Jabber going to know to go connect up to WebEx Teams for the IM&P piece? If you're asking yourself that question, you're a technical junkie, and here's how it's going to work. In the deployment, they're just saying here, you'll go to manage users. And obviously, you can do bulk imports and things like that. But most importantly, I want to show you this slide right here. Look at this slide. This is inside the WebEx Control Hub, and you can see inside hybrid services. Usually, take a snapshot of this. Usually, we would just have these. That's what we have today. That's if you're going to do hybrid services. Remember, calendar services with the @webex @spark, call services with Call Aware and Call Connect. Now we have this other guy. You can see this other guy right here, and it's this guy right here. You have Jabber with WebEx Teams. So if you turn that on, basically what you're going to do is you're going to be able to create a profile inside the WebEx Control Hub. That profile then, when you log in to Jabber, instead of going to Call Manager, right, instead of doing looking for the Cisco UDS SRV for you technical guys, and in getting that SRV and asking for the host name and then connecting up to that host, it's going to always go to WebEx Teams Cloud, Collaboration Cloud first, and then it's going to get a profile back from the WebEx Teams Cloud, and it's going to say, oh, I need to connect up to an on-prem CUCM or Verizon UCAS or what have you for my phone and video service. Okay, so that's how that will work. The configuration for the voice video piece of Jabber, again, will come down from WebEx Teams Collaboration Cloud based on the profile that you give it for that user, particular user, and then it's going to tell that user what to Call Manager to connect up to, and of course all the groups and Call Manager groups and things like that still are relevant, and things like that. It's just going to come from WebEx Teams, the initial, who do you connect up to for your voice video services. And here on the next slide, we see what that profile will look like right here. So we have auto configure, London, Shanghai. So we have different profiles that you actually configure somewhere else, and then you give the Call Manager TFTP. You give those things that would usually come from the Call Manager group from inside a on-prem or Verizon UCAS exclusive Jabber deployment. Okay, I want you to take a look at this too. Inside the WebEx Control Hub, we're going to have another, what they call a card. These are called cards, and when you want to set up hybrid environments or anything like that, or video mesh, you go to the Services tab over here on the left, or menu, and then you can have these. You have these cards that you dive deeper into, and then configure these things. We have a new one. We're going to have a new one right here, and that's that Jabber with WebEx Teams. So that's where we're going to go into and set up the profiles and things like that. And again, I'm speaking specifically to the technical guys. You can see here, almost like CUCM stuff here. We're configuring a UC Manager profile, almost things that you would find in the UC profile stuff that we do in Call Manager, but you can just see here that they're building something in WebEx Control Hub that's going to give that Jabber client some information that's going to tell it how to connect up to the voice video services that are on-prem or as part of Visa UCAS. Okay, just to reinforce the deployment models, I want to give you a quick view of this pre-released software PDF for Jabber 12.5. And right here, let's do one at a time. Jabber with Cisco WebEx Teams has two deployment models. Remember, we talked about those. First deployment model is called cloud-based deployment with Cisco WebEx Teams messaging service. What does that mumbo jumbo mean? It just means that you're going to connect up Jabber to WebEx Teams in the cloud. You're going to use Jabber as your WebEx Teams, yes, you're going to use Jabber as your WebEx Teams client. That's it. That's all it means. All right? So the first one is I got Jabber. I'm going to use Jabber for my WebEx Teams client. I don't have UCaaS. I don't have on-prem anything. Nothing. I just like Jabber, and I want to use Jabber as my WebEx Teams client. That's deployment option number one. The second deployment option is this hybrid cloud-based deployment with Cisco WebEx Teams. So right there, that hybrid should clue you in that it's going to use something from the cloud and something from on-prem or Verizon UCaaS. And basically it says Jabber connects to the WebEx Teams messaging service for contact sources. All right, so we're not getting our contact sources from AD anymore, or in for you technical folks, UDS inside the Cisco Unified Call Manager user database. We're not getting them from there. We're going to get them from the cloud, from WebEx Teams. And we're going to get presence and messaging from the cloud as well. And Jabber also connects up to Cisco UC Manager for calling. As I said before, IM&P, persistent chat, all that stuff's coming from the cloud. And then Jabber, voice video stuff is going to come from UCaaS or an on-prem CUCM. And I want to go over this, but let's go over that later, because this has, just keep that in your head right now, active control. I'm going to come back to that, and I'm going to give you some ideas on where I think this is going, because that's important. Okay, and just to give you a little bit more information from this particular document, they kind of say it a different way here, but I want you to see this also. There are two new deployment models, a Jabber cloud-based deployment model with WebEx Teams messaging service for the messaging, and a Jabber hybrid deployment with Cisco WebEx Team messaging service that also provides calling capabilities.
Okay, let's take a look at the Jabber 12.5 clients real quick. So this is your normal client connected to VZ UCaaS. All right, this is the normal stuff connected to CUCM for our telephony piece, connected to the IM&P server for the IM&P piece. It looks very similar to what we're used to already in 12.0 or 11.9 or whatever you're using today. There's our contacts, there's our chats, there's our meetings for today, and we see our voicemail that's going to connect to Cisco Unity Connection. Now, this button right here, this recents, when we have telephony, we will have the recents. So kind of keep that in mind. When there's telephony, we're going to have recents, and those are recent calls. So let's take a look at the presence. Remember, I told you that there's differences between WebEx Teams and on-prem or Verizon UCaaS. That's the rich presence that the CUP server, the IM&P server, gives the user. And remember, we have all these available away, and then when you're not here for a certain time, right, it's going to go to away. It's going to do that automatically, which WebEx Teams does not. Also, we have the calendar integration. Look, I'm in a meeting right now in my calendar, or Elizabeth is, and it says automatically it did that in the meeting, and anyone looking at her is going to see the meeting as well. Let's just switch over. We're going to switch over to Jack. Now, Jack has 12.5 also, but his 12.5 is connected to WebEx Teams. Now, this is option number 1 or option number 2, I forget, but the deployment model in this right here is the WebEx Teams for Jabber 12.5, no telephony. Okay, remember I talked about two different deployment models. One is the WebEx Teams, or the Jabber connected to WebEx Teams for IM and presence and persistent chat. And I made that name up, IM&P or something like that. And then the other deployment model is the Jabber 12.5 connected to WebEx Teams for IM&P, persistent chat, and then connected to like a Verizon UCaaS CUCM for the telephony piece. This is the first one. So that's why we don't see the recents right there. So there is no phone here is what I'm saying. This is just connected to WebEx Teams. And let's just poke around here. We have chats. We have contacts. Remember, the contacts are going to come from the WebEx Teams realm. We have meetings. Same thing there, integrated with our Microsoft Outlook. So it's getting that from Microsoft Outlook, putting that in there. And then we have voicemail too. I don't have this set up, but this would connect up to our voicemail. That's obviously on-prem in this case, or Visa UCaaS, which remember I told you, if I didn't tell you, the back-end WebEx Teams domain that we have doesn't support this feature yet. Remember I told you earlier that you have to configure some stuff in the WebEx Teams Control Hub to push down to the Jabber 12.5 to tell it, by the way, you're going to have telephony, and the telephony you're going to have is Call Manager or Verizon UCaaS or what have you, on-prem CUCM. And I don't have that, so that's why we just have deployment model number 1, WebEx Teams only connected to Jabber 12.5. Okay, let's take a look at the presence. Remember, we have the rich presence over there in the Verizon UCaaS when connected to IM&P server. Here we're connected to WebEx Teams, and we have the normal WebEx Teams stuff. You know, do not disturb, 20 minutes, 1 hour, 8. This is not the rich presence. This is kind of the step below that. I don't know what we call it, just presence. But it acts just like WebEx Teams, where if you move your mouse, it doesn't go active or anything like that. You have to interact with it. Let's go ahead and go back to Liz, which is connected to UCaaS. And we're going to log her out. And what we're going to do is manually set this thing to connect up to WebEx Teams. Okay, so we're leaving the WebEx or leaving the UCaaS realm and just connecting this to WebEx Teams. I want you to see how that works if you do it manually. Remember, this is going to be automatic because we're going to have some DNS magic and things like that, and things pushed down from WebEx Teams. So let's go to advanced settings here, and you see this new guy right here, WebEx Teams messaging. That wasn't there before. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to save. And then what I'm going to do is use my WebEx Teams login. And you see that IDP broker kind of came in the picture. So again, this is Jabber connecting to WebEx Team Cloud Collaboration Service. Now that's logged in, this person is just like Jack now. Jack and Liz are both connected to WebEx Teams and have nothing to do with UCaaS at this point in time. Let's take a look at what a one-to-one chat looks like between Jack and Elizabeth, and we'll say, let's just do this. We'll start a conversation. We want to start a conversation, a one-to-one space. If you're familiar with WebEx Teams, there it is. I'm going to just click that, and we're going to start a chat. Okay, there we go. We're going to start a chat right there, and here we are. This looks very Jabberish like, but this is a space. If you see here, that's a space looking, remember the little icons inside the, let me just put that away real quick, and I'm going to bring up a WebEx Teams client. Okay, this is what a WebEx Teams client looks like. Okay, let's go back over here. We see that little information icon. Put that away, go to a real WebEx Teams client. And any space we go into, see we get this little information icon there. So I just want to show you that it's very similar. Let's go back. Okay. Now here we can chat. Okay, and we're chatting with Jack. We'll go over here, Jack, and it looks like we got something going on over here. So I can click on chats. And looks like Liz is chatting with us, and we can double click that, and there's our chat. This is persistent chat, remember, because it's WebEx Teams, so we have all the history here and all that. That's how that works. Let's take it a step further. So we got Jack and Liz chatting with each other just on a one-to-one chat, a one-to-one space, if we want to use the WebEx Teams vernacular. What about people outside our company? We know WebEx Teams is automatically federated with people outside our company that are on WebEx Teams as well, other orgs, other domains. Well, here is Anson over here. We'll go over to Anson, and he is a different org, and he uses WebEx Teams only. That's it. Doesn't use Jabber or anything like that. Let's go ahead and contact Jack Sparrow. Look at that. We can actually find him because there's a big monstrous directory up in the sky in WebEx Teams. So we can find that user because he's a WebEx Teams user. I can click on that. There's Jack, and I can start chatting away. We'll go back to Jack, which is on Jabber 12.5, and he should get, there it is, Anson Garcia is contacting him. Double click that, and then we get this chat. They're calling this the chat hub, and we get that chat hub very Jabber-like where we have tab chats going on. We can go ahead and chat with Anson as well there. Okay, let's go back to WebEx Teams client, and I want to show you the activity menu. Okay, this activity menu has a couple of things. Messages, calling, if you're going to do a call, a meeting in this side, inside this space, whether it be one-to-one or several people. We have whiteboarding, we have meetings, and meetings is to schedule a meeting, right? I've gone over this in some prior videos, and then we can create the meeting invite here. I'll just push that just so you can see that we can do that here as well. All right, and there's the meeting at Spark. We have all this back end. This is hybrid environment on this guy, so that's why all this works. But I want to point your attention to people. We get a list of people, and I want to point your attention to files. We get a list of files if anybody uploaded any files here. Okay, in fact, let's go to a member. Let's go to this space right here. And let's do that again. Let's go to files. I know there's some files in here. Oh, excuse me. Okay, we have some files in there. Okay, in fact, on the WebEx Teams side with Anson, let's go ahead and add Jack in here. Oh, he's already in here. Great. That's awesome. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to Jack on the Jabber. And let's see, there it is. So he's a member of that space over here. Okay, Anson added him to this space here. You can see there again, Jack is a member of this space. So he has a view into that space. And here it is. I'm going to double click it. It should come up here. There it is. Okay, I want you to take a look at the activity menu here. Look what we have. We have a couple of things, but one of the things we have are files. You can see that's very WebEx Teams-like. They're all our files that have been uploaded into this space. Let's go on, see what else we see. We see the participant list. Remember the people. Remember, this is just like over here on Anson. I showed you people, the participant list. Back to Jack on Jabber. We also have schedule a meeting. Remember, we had that over there too. Let's push that, and what that does is bring up this little dialog, who we're going to add if we want to add more people, and then we schedule a meeting. It does just like WebEx Teams. Well, it brings up Outlook, in our case here. If we had Gmail or Google Calendar, it would bring up that. We have Outlook here, and it brings up that, puts all the people in the two, and we're good to go. Okay, now if we had hybrid here, there's some things that aren't working yet. Namely the hybrid stuff in this client. So pay no attention to that. It's going to work later on, but I will just want you to see that you can schedule meetings within the Jabber client as well. So don't save that. And then what else we have is the start meeting. Okay, now this is the start meeting from the WebEx perspective. Okay, our traditional WebEx perspective that's connected or integrated with Jabber. Okay, that may not make some sense to you, but let me just click this so you see what goes on. See, it's using Jabber, and the integration Jabber has to WebEx, bringing up the WebEx app, and then we're going right into the meeting. Okay? Let me explain this a little further. This is very traditional. There's nothing new here. Okay? There is going to be something new, and remember I talked about the active control earlier. The active control. Let me revisit that for a second. So I'm going to close this WebEx meeting. This is the new WebEx. That's why you see all these things out here. Let's leave meeting. Let's go over the active control. What is this all about? Does this have anything to do with WebEx Teams yet? No. But let me connect the dots for you here in a second. Active control, the easiest way to kind of give you the clue in on this is to let you see this diagram right here. If you look at this diagram, what the diagram is showing you is that Jabber clients, let's take this Jabber client right here, can control CMS. Now, what does CMS have to do with WebEx Teams? Nothing right now. Okay, but what are they saying that this thing can do? What can Jabber do now? Remember, if we were inside CMS, if we were doing a CMS meeting, that was all web controls and things like. We didn't have a lot of controls inside Jabber, you know, other than mute and things like that if we called a URL. But you'll get me here in just a second. Let's go to the next slide here. If you look at this slide here, what they're saying active control is, and what they're adding to Jabber, is they're adding all these video controls. Look where you're at here. You're inside Jabber. You're not in a WebEx app or a WebEx app or anything like that. You're inside Jabber. Look at right there. This is the Jabber, and everything's coming up here, and you have all your video controls like mute and show all participants and see who's talking, and you're going to be able to record and do all those things. So they're bringing all the feature set. Let's say in WebEx, when we're in WebEx and in the WebEx app, right, we can record, we can see all the users, we can do all that. Remember, they brought that into WebEx Teams client. Now they're bringing it into the Jabber client. And let me just go to the next slide too. You see, there's your layout. And you have different layouts that you can do for video. And they're showing you on the mobile client as well. You can change the layout. You can show active speaker and presenter. So it's almost like they're bringing kind of the WebEx look and feel inside the Jabber client itself. So you don't need WebEx client anymore. You don't need to go to the URL. You don't need to have a browser or anything. Everything's going to be inside Jabber. Why is this important? Okay, let me tell you why it's important. If we were here in Jabber and we wanted to join a WebEx Teams meeting, okay, we all know that in Teams, in the WebEx Teams client, I can start a meeting from here. Remember, I can just start the meeting, and of course I can choose, it's going to do that proximity. I can choose to start it on my big screen on the wall, whatever, but I can start my video right here. I can start a meeting, a web collaboration meeting, and here I am in the meeting, and I'm inside the client. WebEx didn't come up. Remember, it's using the WebEx meetings back end, but I stay inside the client. I don't go to a web browser. It doesn't kick off anything like that. I'm within the client. There's everyone. I can see people that are going to join. If I go over here to, is Jessica part of this guy? Yes, Jessica's part of this guy. So I can go over here. Jessica's going to get that someone's started a meeting inside 3-member space here, and she can go there and she can join the meeting as well if she wants to. I won't do that right now. Go ahead. I won't do that right now, but what I want you to get your mind around is everything is inside. I can start recording here. So I have my record buttons, just like I would have in WebEx. I have all this stuff and all that. Now think of this very quickly. If we had that inside Jabber, If we had that inside Jabber, then we'd always stay inside Jabber. The meeting would start. Now, it doesn't work today, but the meeting would start, and I would be able to join the meeting here. Okay, and the reason I can't join the meeting is the telephony piece isn't working, because we need telephony. We need the voice video piece that call manager is going to bring to dial a URI and go into the WebEx Teams meeting. Remember, hopefully, if you saw some of my earlier videos, the WebEx meeting, every WebEx meeting is going to have a URI. There's the URI. So that's what you dial. That's basically what I'm doing. When I say meeting here, when I do call, it's dialing to that URI. Okay? And then everyone else, when they go into this meeting, it's just dialing the URI as well. Okay? That's dialing URI. Right? Voice video. So, if Jack had the deployment number 2, where we had WebEx Teams as the messaging and persistent chat piece, and we had Call Manager connected here for the voice video piece, he would get this join meeting in the three member space here, and he would also be able to join the meeting, and it would dial a URI. What's going to dial the URI? Not WebEx Teams collaboration service. It's going to shoot it over to Call Manager. Call Manager is going to dial the URI. That obviously is going to go, for you technical folks, is going to go, to Expressway C, Expressway E, and do business to business video, shoot it out that way, and we're going to go into this WebEx meeting, WebEx Teams meeting. That's how that's going to work. So just to bring that concept home real quick, let's whiteboard this real quick. Now, we'll do a WebEx Teams client over here. That's connected up to the WebEx Teams collaboration cloud. And then we have Jabber 12.5 client. And the Jabber client, remember, has 2 pieces to it. This is sitting on a desktop, obviously. And we have a, let's say, a VoIP piece, right? And we have a chat piece. The chat piece, or the chat part of this application, is going to connect up to the collaboration cloud. And let's just say the VoIP piece, we're going to connect up that to VZ UCAS, and specifically in VZ UCAS CUCM, right? It's responsible for call control. Okay, on this guy over here, all the call control is up in here, so call control, let's say CC, and let's do an arrow, is controlled by that guy. And then call control, let's say C. Call control is the little VoIP phone over here, and that's controlled by Call Manager. And remember, our Call Manager then has connection to Expressway C, Expressway E, and that connects out to the internet, which is connected to the WebEx collaboration cloud. So when we join a meeting on the WebEx Teams side, let's say there's a meeting out here. Let's call this a bridge. And there's a meeting going on, and this guy, let's do red here. This guy calls in, and it joins the bridge, dials a URI. When the Jabber is going to dial the bridge, it can be chatting inside the bridge or inside that WebEx Teams space this way, but when it dials that URI, it's going to go this way. Okay, hopefully that puts it together for you, and let's talk about the implications of all this next. So what does this mean to Verizon UCAS? Well, it's a good thing in my view. You're going to get the best voice video right from UCAS. You're going to get all the real-time workloads stay in the QoS world. They stay inside PIP. Right, that's what we do good, audio and video. So that on-prem audio and video, whether it be across MRA or whatever, SIP trunks and all that is going to be QoS enabled. It's going to be within our PIP. So we're going to get the best possible audio and video experience when we are doing callback, when we're calling from our phones, when we're calling from Jabber. Jabber is either going to be inside the enterprise or it's going to be via MRA. If your business phones are inside the enterprise, they're going to have good quality of experience or quality of service. If your Jabber's inside the enterprise, they're going to have some pretty good QoS too. Also, if you think about the hybrid stuff, the call aware and call connect, I don't know if you're familiar with that. If you are, you can definitely tell this is going to be better than that, much better. So this will be a better solution than hybrid. IM&P gets turbocharged with Teams. It does. Now we have, right out of the gate, we have persistent chat. We have many customers that have asked for persistent chat, and we just haven't been able to deliver because it takes extra servers, other databases, Windows servers, and we just haven't been able to do that because they're not Cisco servers. Now we can do that. We can offer persistent chat. Now, obviously, that's going to take away, if we do it this way, we're not going to have any Cisco IM&P server, or what we call the cup server, the old name. We're not going to have that anymore. We don't need it. What about meetings native to the client with active control? I said maybe here, if I'm right on where Jabber 12.5 is going and doing active control and putting all these widgets inside the Jabber, the audio video widgets with speaker, participant list, who's talking, the little sound, muting, record, things like that. Those are all part of WebEx Team Collaboration Cloud and WebEx Meetings. All the meetings and everything will be kind of inside Jabber. So you'll have persistent chat, you'll have great business quality voice with the Jabber telephony connected up to UCaaS, and then you're going to have great meeting experience because you're all going to be in one app and you don't have to pop out into a web browser or anything like that. It's going to dial the URI, it's going to go out and join your meetings. And I would bet that pretty soon Jabber, let's say 13, is going to support hybrid, or excuse me, video mesh. And that's even going to be better. Okay, what else do I have? Instant federation with other WebEx Teams user. You saw that I was able to federate with Anson. Jack was able to federate with Anson, just bring him right on in. So we have this instant federation with other WebEx Teams users, other WebEx Teams domains out there. So what do you not get? And I wanted to talk a little bit about that just on 12.5 anyway. What don't you get with 12.5 if you're going to use 12.5 to connect up to WebEx Teams? You don't get teams. Remember, I went over that. There was no concept yet of creating teams or anything like that. You can create spaces, but you couldn't create teams and then add people to teams and then create spaces under teams. That's not there yet. I didn't see it on the radar, but the radar I looked at is only up to October. So I would care to bet, again, that it's going to come in the next release. There is no viewers. Okay, remember in WebEx Teams, if we upload a PowerPoint, we can see that PowerPoint. We can pull it up and there's a viewer inside WebEx Teams. There's no viewers inside Jabber 12.5. And we can't see recorded meetings yet. Let me show you these two real quick. Let's pop back out. It's always best to show what I mean. Okay, what I mean by viewers, here's the 3D. Let's go over here to the WebEx Teams client. Let's bring down that meeting. Let's go here. Let's go over here to files. Let's look at the files here and look at, let's see, there's a presentation right there. So let me just click on that and you see the presentation comes up. We're still inside WebEx Teams. It has a viewer for PowerPoint. You know, PowerPoint didn't come up. Look down here at my bar, my Windows bar. There's nothing came up here. And so this is what they refer to as viewers. They have in-application viewers. So let's go see over here in Jabber. Same place. We're going to the same, and I double click and nothing happens. So there's not a viewer inside this application. I have to download it, and then once I download it, I go look in my downloads, and then I'm going to be able to bring that particular file up. Okay, the other thing that you can't do in Jabber, here's WebEx Teams client again, and here's a meeting that I had. In other words, I started the meeting, and I haven't done a video on this, and hopefully you guys are familiar with this. I'll do one demonstrating this particular feature, but you can do a meeting inside a space, and just like WebEx, you can record the meeting. Once you record the meeting and stop the recording, it's going to post inside the space contents. You can see here I had a meeting, I started recording the meeting, and after I stopped the meeting, it posted the recording here, and then you can click on this recording. That's going to bring up a web browser that takes me to that recording, and I can put in my password here. Copy. And then we're going to get that recording. So again, that is a WebEx Teams meeting, and we recorded it, and it posts inside the space. Now let's take a look at the Jabber 12.5, and if we look here, let's go back over here just real quick. Where was that at? Right before OK Jack, you there. All right, let's go back up here. OK Jack, you there. There, right here, there's supposed to be a meeting. You see, it doesn't show there. So you can't see that meeting in the Jabber 12.5 release. And then the last thing that we have here is no federation with on-prem Jabber or Skype for Business. Remember that the IM&P piece is connecting to WebEx Teams. WebEx Teams is the IM&P piece, and that IM&P piece cannot be, WebEx Teams Cloud does not federate with Skype for Business. CUPS or IM&P UCAS IM&P server, we can federate with other Jabber environments that use IM&P, CUPS, or Skype for Business, or any other SIP Simple or XMPP style of products that do instant messaging. That's it. I'm sorry for a lengthy video. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope this has been informative.